Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm back and it's Wednesday, August 5th, and it is 9:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, I hope everyone is doing well. You're here, I'm here. Let's get into the news. Alrighty. And before we do that, I have two people to thank, donated via coffee, Medicine Manager and Christiane. Thank you guys very, very much. I appreciate that. It helps me to do what I do. So it is very much appreciated and goes to help the channel. All right. Well, let's just dive in here anywhere and just begin. There's a lot of news and I know that I'm not going to be able to touch on all of it. There's just too much out there now. But I'm hoping that I got the highlights anyway. All right. Let's take a look at this. Well, yeah, here we go. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's disturbing to say the very, very least. Now, it says video catches Joe Biden rubbing little girl's hand on his, after distracting her family. So I'm going to make this bigger for you tiny phone people. And you're going to keep an eye. There's his hand and there's the little girl. And watch this hand, what he does with it. And watch her reaction. She immediately knows it's wrong. Now, here we go. Now he's taken her hand and see what, he took her hand, he rubbed it against himself, and look at her withdraw her hand and put her hand to her mouth. And look up at him like, let's watch it one more time. And see, he says right before he does that, look up there. And then he takes her hand and he rubs himself with it. It's disturbing because, any of you that have had any dealings with pedophiles know that that's how they do things right out in the open. And then if anyone says anything to them, they're like, what? Why would I do that with everybody here? What? What are you saying? And immediately everybody then apologizes. So, yeah. A lot of times it's not like they get them off somewhere to do something. You can tell he's been doing this for a very long time because he's absolutely unashamed. He just does it right there in front of everyone. That takes a lot of courage, and you only get courage, that kind of courage, from doing it over and over and over again and not getting caught. So he thinks he's invincible. Certainly, He's not fit to be president for many, many reasons. This is one. Number two, the dementia, because he's gone. We're going to have another example here in a bit as well. All right. So hang on here. Let's go back and go on. Oh, yes. This is the next thing. Are you a junkie? Biden during interview with Black Journalists Association. Yeah. Former Vice President Joe Biden went off the deep end during an interview with the National Association of Black Journalists. CBS correspondent Errol Barnett asked whether Biden had taken a cognitive test. That set off the former VP. No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man, he said. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're when you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think? Huh? Are you a junkie? Imagine for a moment if President Trump had asked a journalist of color that question. I can imagine it. And I could imagine them marching in the streets to try to remove him forcibly from office. But no, the media just kind of brushes it off when it's Joe Biden. seems that he's invincible because he's Democrat. Right. So I've got it somewhere. I'm hoping that they here it is. Yeah. So it says, CBS this morning, watch, CBS News correspondent Errol Barnett asked presumed Democrat nominee Joe Biden if he's taken a cognitive test. Because President Trump has. Why wouldn't he take a cognitive test? If he was confident in his cognitive abilities, wouldn't he take the test to be able to say, yes, I've taken the test. There's no issues. Right? Well, wouldn't any normal person do that? Not him. He takes it very, very personally when he's asked that question. And let's take a look here. Let me see if I can.
In a presidential election where both candidates are well over 70, each has questioned the other's mental agility. Our own Errol Barnett asked the presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden about that. Errol, good morning again. So the former vice president seemed to bristle at that question.
That's right. Good morning, Vlad. You know, we had an opportunity to speak to the vice president as part of the convention for National Association of Black and Hispanic Journalists, which is kicking off today. And we cover a wide range of topics. But as you know, President Trump has made his mental ability and agility a campaign topic. And Vice President Biden had previously said in June he's always cognitively tested on the campaign trail. But I had a more specific question. Here's the exchange. Please clarify specifically, have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not. What do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his test and makes your mental state an issue for voters?
Well, if he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Did you watch that? Look, come on, man. I know you're trying to goad me, but I mean, I'm so forward looking to have an opportunity to sit with the president or stand with the president in debates.
Now, we asked the Biden campaign this morning if they wanted to add any additional context to those remarks, specifically comparing a mental test to being tested for cocaine. The campaign has not yet responded. The vice president will hold a number of virtual events this afternoon, including one with Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. She is one of his potential VP picks, and we expect an announcement on that front in the coming days. Vlad?
Now, I don't know about you, and certainly this probably won't apply to you men, but it's hard for me to pay attention to anything this guy is saying because he's too dang perfect. He's absolutely a beautiful man. I'm just throwing that out there. It really is hard because he's got these absolutely gorgeous eyes. I'm sorry. I'm like totally distracted now. Yeah. And I don't think that he was asking Biden to goad him. I don't think that that was the case at all. I think he wanted an answer to that question because I think all of America wants the answer to that question. But instead, Biden went off, and who the heck knows what he was talking about? He's saying, well, what are you, a junkie? Wow. And then he says, well, he can't tell, Trump can't tell the difference between a lion and an elephant. And I mean, nothing he says seems to make sense. And he always reacts almost violently when anybody questions him about anything. Notice how he just said immediately, I mean, the guy had barely got the question out and he said, no, I haven't taken a test. You know, and it's like, come on, man. He always does this. And he turns it around. If anyone is asking him something uncomfortable, he turns it around and directs it back at that person. Like, you know, like he told that guy he was a lying dog-faced pony soldier. Yeah. So not a good way to win the presidency. Like Donald Trump has a knack at insulting people that trolls them. That's not the same thing that Biden's doing at all. Not at all. Trump is a very intelligent man, and, you know, anybody that knows and has been around and, you know, observed him can see that he does that. He's expert at that. He goads them for a reason, but That's not what we have here. Biden is not that smart. So anyway, I just thought you would enjoy seeing that if you hadn't already. And let's go on. Okay, and more Biden. Okay, Biden scraps plans to travel to Milwaukee for nomination acceptance, citing coronavirus concerns. Biden will instead accept the nomination and deliver a speech from his basement. I mean, his home in Delaware, in his home state in Delaware. So I guess it says from his home state, but I would assume it's going to be from his basement. I mean, does he ever come out of it? I don't know. No. And he says, I look forward to debating Trump. My gosh, it's almost going to be too embarrassing to watch. But when push comes to shove, I don't believe for a moment he will debate Trump, because he knows the minute he does, it's over for him. I mean, over. As soon as people can widely see how much he has declined cognitively, yeah, it's not going to go well for him. There's absolutely no way he could stand up to Trump. I don't know really who he could stand up to tell you the truth. Anyway, so he's using the old coronavirus excuse again. Joe Biden is no longer planning to travel to the Democratic convention site of Milwaukee to accept the party's presidential nomination, citing coronavirus concerns. Okay, convention organizers said in a statement Wednesday that Biden will instead accept the Democratic nomination and deliver a speech from his home state of Delaware, and other speakers also will not go to Milwaukee. Now, how's he going to run the nation from his basement? Really, is his wife planning on doing his job for him? I don't know, because he's not capable of it, and he's using this excuse. Well, what happens when he's president? Oh, I can't go there. I might get coronavirus. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't. No, I can't do that. Really? Yeah. From the very beginning of this pandemic, we put the health and safety of the American people first. Sure you did. We followed the science. Sure you did. Listened to doctors and public health experts. Yeah, like Fauci. Yeah, some expert. And we continued making adjustments to our plans in order to protect lives. Yeah, he's real into saving lives, right? And that's the leadership Joe Biden will bring to the White House. Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez says. Right. The decision comes as both parties continue to dramatically scale back their convention plans, with the pandemic still raging in many states and concerns mounting about how gatherings of any size would impact the spread. It's unclear if... Wait. They tell us that the masks work, right? Don't the masks work? Do they work or do they not? Because they're telling us, it's all right. Just wear a mask, right? You're protected. Everything's fine. Stay 6 feet apart. Wear the mask. Well, so why can't they have a convention? They just have to, space the seats out and wear masks, and everybody's going to be safe, right? That's what they tell us. What, are they telling us something different now? It's unclear if Biden, who is limiting campaign appearances, will also be tested in the near future. He said last week he has not been tested. There's no way he would get tested because he wouldn't pass, and we all know that. And the thing is, maybe he has been tested and didn't pass. We don't know. The Democrat convention was originally scheduled to be held in mid-July in Milwaukee's Fiserv Forum, the city's major indoor arena, but as the coronavirus swept through the nation this spring, the DNC moved back the date of the convention a month to the week of August 17th. In June, officials announced that they were downscaling from the arena to a much smaller convention center nearby. Democratic Party officials in June also told the roughly 4,000 delegates not to attend the convention in person, and spelled out how the delegates would be able to vote for the nomination and the party platform remotely. Party officials sent a letter last month to Democratic members of Congress urging them to attend the quadrennial national confab in person. The moves to downsize the in-person portion of their convention came as public health officials continued to advise against any large gatherings in order to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Now, that's really not the issue at all, and we know that. They pushed it back, and they're downscaling it because I don't even think that, presumably he will be the nominee, but I don't know. He's not fit to serve, and I don't know what they're doing, but they've got something up their sleeve, I can assure you. So anyway, I'm not going to go on with this, but yeah, it's just going to be excuses with this bunch that we have for Democrats right now, and that's all we're going to get. And we probably won't know until right before the election what's really happening. I don't know. They've got something up their sleeve, I can assure you. And the coronavirus is just very convenient for them. Very convenient. So they'll flog that dead horse to death over and over again. And then they'll resurrect it again, and there'll be a new outbreak. Oh, be afraid, everybody. And so they'll resurrect the horse and kill it again, flog it to death. All right, that's enough of that. Boy, it's depressing. I don't know. I find it very depressing looking into anything about Biden. I really do, because it makes me think that I'm in bizarro land or flatland or something where nothing is as it appears, because it's I wouldn't believe this if it was a movie. I wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, oh, come on. Somebody could have written a movie that's more believable than that. Because you've got somebody that really doesn't even know where he is sometimes, fumbles over all his words, says things that make no sense whatsoever, misquotes figures and facts, and, forgets names, whatever. And they're holding this man up like, oh, he's the choice, yeah. They tried that with Hillary. Of course, she was much more convincing, but it's just, she would have been really convincing if we didn't know her track record. She probably could have gotten in if we weren't aware of her track record and the body count, and all that. Anyway, let's go on now. This is disturbing as well. U.S. government and Yale hold trials on how best to persuade Americans to take COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah, how do you feel about that? That the U.S. government and Yale are holding trials on how best to persuade Americans to take the vaccine. If this vaccine is so wonderful, why would they have to persuade people? Gee. In brief, the facts: the U.S. government and Yale University collaborate in a clinical trial to determine the best messaging to persuade Americans to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Reflect on, why do people need to be persuaded? Is it possible they have a lack of trust in public health recommendations for good reason? For very good reason. Yeah, Fauci's lied to us. Gates has lied to us. Look at the track record that Gates has. Ask the people in Africa, Nigeria. Excuse me. How many people have died from his vaccines? A lot. So, yeah, there's good reason. The U.S. federal government, in collaboration with Yale University, held clinical trials to determine what the best messaging would be to persuade Americans to take the COVID-19 vaccine when it is ready. The news of this study does show an interest in finding the best way to persuade people into an ideal decision for the federal government and likely vaccine makers, and it also shows that a mandatory vaccine campaign may still be the plan B down the road as opposed to plan A. The official title of the trial is Persuasive Messages for COVID-19 Vaccine Uptake, a Randomized Controlled Trial, Part 1. According to the brief summary for trial, the study tests different messages about vaccinating against COVID-19. Once the vaccine becomes available, participants are randomized to one of 12 arms with one control arm and one baseline arm. We will compare the reported willingness to get a COVID-19 vaccine at 3 and 6 months of it becoming available between the 10 intervention arms to the 2 control arms. Study participants are recruited online by Lucid, which matches census-based sampling in online recruitment. The study essentially looks at the best possible messaging that can be used on Americans, ranging from expressing vaccine benefits to using messaging about economic impact, making someone feel guilty or embarrassed for not taking the vaccine, and so on. The study looked at around 400 participants aged 18 years and up, all of whom had to be U.S. residents, of course. The various arms used in the study when it came to messaging were as follows: control message, baseline message, personal freedom message, economic freedom message, self-interest message, community interest message, economic benefit message, guilt message, embarrassment message, anger message, trust in science message, not bravery message. Interesting, the study also looked at various social elements involved in vaccination. See below. And we're not going to read all this. Well, we can hit on this, I guess, because it is important. Primary outcome measures, intention to get COVID-19 vaccine, time frame immediately after intervention in the same survey in which the intervention message is provided. Okay, well, you know what? We really don't have to look into all the sordid details of this. I think it's important to know that they are doing this. And why are they doing this? Why are they doing this big, testing on what messages will get the most people vaccinated? And that's exactly what they're doing. How can we frame this? How can we market this to persuade the absolute highest amount of Americans to get this vaccine? That's what they're doing. And yeah, I guess they need to do that because I think that people are distrustful for very good reasons. Very good reasons. They don't have a good track record. So, and we know that this vaccine is not safe. We already know it. So, yeah, there you go. Spending government money, I guess, learning how to persuade us to do things that are not in our best interest. Of course, that's how I feel. I'm not telling any of you to take it or not take it. I'm just saying, just giving you my opinion and telling you what I intend to do. All right, let's, okay, and let's look at this. I was really shocked at this number, to tell you the truth. Over 200,000 left homeless in Beirut as city devastated by blast. Half of city affected by explosion, governor says. And we looked at this kind of extensively last night, and but I did want to, that's a lot of people without homes. So if you are a believer, keep the people of Beirut in your prayers. It says up to 300,000 people in Beirut have been left without a home. Well, now it says 300,000 up here. It said 200,000. So which is it? Well, 300,000 is over 200,000. So anyway, 300,000 people in Beirut have been left without a home after the deadly explosion that ripped through a large part of the Lebanese capital on Tuesday, the governor of the city said. The powerful eruption devastated entire neighborhoods and affected roughly half of the city, Governor Marwan Aboud told local and international media. With numerous buildings damaged by the blast wave, between 200,000 and 300,000 in Beirut have been left without a home and will need food, water, and shelter. Preliminary estimates place the damage anywhere between 3 billion and 5 billion and maybe more. You know, this makes me laugh when I hear these estimates because they're so ridiculously low. And I'll tell you why. When I was living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, a hurricane came through and it did $5 billion worth of damage in our city, in the city of Baton Rouge. $5 billion of damage. In fact, this particular hurricane, Gustav, did more damage than Katrina did. And it wasn't that so many things were damaged. There was a lot of roofs torn off, of course, and trees, on houses and things like that. But, buildings weren't destroyed. I mean, well, yeah, some homes, I would say, were probably essentially destroyed once a tree falls on it, but it can be rebuilt. Anyway, nothing like we're seeing in Beirut is what I'm trying to tell you here. Nothing. And that was 5 billion. If that was 5 billion, look, we saw pictures of Beirut, and the pictures are not getting any better. They're getting worse the more they show. So, yeah, 5 billion? Are you kidding me? No. There's whole, apartment buildings completely blown out. 5 billion is nothing these days. I know it seems like a lot, and it would be a lot if it was in my bank account, but, for something like this, it's nothing. It's nothing. Anyway, the devastation is a further blow to Lebanon's already struggling financial situation as the country is experiencing its worst economic crisis in decades. Beirut port, where the blast originated, is an important piece of infrastructure, serving as a gateway for traffic from Mediterranean Sea to Lebanon, as well as Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. Lebanese officials linked the blast to 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate, which had been stored at a warehouse in Beirut since 2013, when it was confiscated from an unsafe ship that was reportedly delivering cargo to Mozambique. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Yes, I do believe that there was ammonium nitrate there. I also think that it was a weapons depot, and it's pretty clear from those pictures that I showed you last night that there was a missile. So, yeah, I guess they're just trying to sanitize the story now. Anyway, Lebanese officials linked the blast to, okay, I've already read that. The chemical compound is widely used as a fertilizer, as is also a compound used in the production of explosives. At least 100 people have been killed in the disaster, with the death toll expected to rise further. Yeah, 100 is going to be a drop in the bucket. If you could see some of the rubble, there's no way they've had time to dig in that rubble to find how many people are under there. But there's a lot of people missing, so I'm sure it'll go up. And here's the other thing. There was, and I probably should get that together to show you, it was a directed energy weapon, and the blast in Lebanon, Beirut, Lebanon, and they were identical. I mean, identical. It was immediately that big white, and it just looked identical. So it could have been that caused it as well. But do I believe it was just a bunch of, what is it, sodium nitrate? Sorry, I keep forgetting what that is. Ammonium nitrate. I've got to remember that. Anyway. And that's the ammonium nitrate. That's exactly what was used in the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma. So, yes, it can do damage. But, yeah, just not real sure that that's all it was. All right. Anyway, my computer is overheating terribly, and I'm going to, I'm going to just pause it for a second so I can get something underneath my computer, because it is really overheating. So I'm just going to pause it. It'll seem fairly seamless to you. Okay. And I'm back. Did you miss me? All right. Well, I've got something under my computer now. I think I need to, I've got some of that, spray that you spray. It's like a cold spray for computers anyway. It gets all the dust and everything out. And I think I've got some cat hair under there, and the fan's not working to its optimum. So anyway, let's go on now. Are you ready? I know, you were born ready. I can tell. All right, now here's something else. Developing, massive fire breaks out at a market in Ajman, United Arab Emirates. No word yet on cause or injuries, but I'll tell you, that's a major fire, major. And you can see there that there are explosions happening. So what's this about? And is it related at all? Well, there's a lot of police presence there. That's a big fire, because that's taken from quite a distance away, and I'm not sure what is even on fire. So, gonna have to stay on top of that. Oh, here it is. What's this? United Arab Emirates, Lebanon, Wuhan. What is going on here? Yes, I heard this too. Explosion at Chinese chemical factory kills 6 people, injures 4. The blast occurred around 5:30 p.m. local time at the factory of the Lanhua Silicone Company in Shenzhou, maybe? I don't know. I do my best at the Chinese names, but in a Hubei province, city of some 1.5 million. So this is a chemical factory, and you know, the other was chemicals. Could these be places where they are producing weapons? I'm just asking. It seems strange, and I don't know what this is, what that exactly is. It is in Ajman, United Arab Emirates, and there was another one as well, and in Iran. It says burning ships in Iran add to a string of dozens of explosions and fires. Iranian officials say that some of the explosions at factories and military facilities and some forest fires may have been sabotaged. So I'm going to look into this for tomorrow and find if I can see any similarities in these and any connections between them. Something's going on. That's just a little too coincidental, if you ask me. But yeah. So what is this? It says that's June 3rd. I don't know, but that's Beirut. This is in Ziba Sahar area that's an Iranian security forces surround the area. Second bomb is being defused. Then there's this, 6 people are killed after a Chinese chemical factory explodes, and North Korea. North Korea explosion leaves 9 dead and dozens with devastating injuries. So please tell me, doesn't that sound a little bit too coincidental? It does to me. Is somebody blowing up places that are of a threat to, I don't know, is it the deep state? I wouldn't think the deep state would want them blown up. I would think it would be the white hats. Wouldn't you? Although, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that died in Lebanon, Beirut, Lebanon, so I don't know if that would be white hats or not. I mean, sometimes you can't avoid casualties, especially if you're, you know, if they were building something in there that was meant for mass destruction, then, you know, I guess they would be warranted in blowing it up. But anyway, I am going to stay on this and look into it deeper. I haven't had much of a chance today to dig into it as deeply as I'd like to. And I was just seeing if there's anything else. It says 2 days, 3 countries, chemical weapon facilities. Someone is covering their tracks. Could be. It could be. So anyway, I'm going to look into this further tomorrow and see if I can get any connections between this and see if I can find out any further information, because it is interesting and too much to be coincidental in my books anyway. All right, let's go back and come down here. This by Bill Malugan. Breaking, you're not going to believe this, but if you're in LA, you probably do believe this. LA Mayor Eric Garcetti announces he is authorizing the city to shut off water and power to any houses or businesses that are hosting any parties or unauthorized large gatherings. It will begin Friday night, and LAPD will respond, then contact DWP to cut it off. Yeah, what could go wrong? This is beginning to get way, I mean, we have crossed the line way back there. We are so far over the line now. I don't know how we're ever going to get the genie back in the bottle. or if we ever will. Really. I mean, this is just unbelievable. I am so glad I don't live in New York or Los Angeles or the state of Michigan. Not because I don't like those places, not at all. It's because of the government of those places. All right. And this by Donald J. Trump, your president and mine. Sally Yates has zero credibility. She was part of the greatest political crime of the century, and Biden knew everything. Sally Yates leaked the General Flynn conversation. Ask her under oath. Republicans should start playing the Democrats' game. Yes, they should. I wish no, not all of them, but I wish that more Republicans would, take after Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz. I'm just saying. All right, now let's look at this. I think this will interest you. I think it will interest you a whole lot. I'm sorry, I didn't move my microphone back after I paused there for a moment, so I probably sounded like I was far away, but here I am. Okay, you can probably hear me now. All right, so busted, NIH owns a financial stake in Gates-funded coronavirus vaccine. Oh, what a surprise! National Institute of Health has a financial stake in the Moderna coronavirus vaccine. Boy, I would never have thought. Never in a million years would I have thought. Now, this is actually not a new article. It is from June 30th, but I must have missed this in my foray into this whole Fauci and Bill Gates debacle. National Institute of Health own a financial stake in the Bill Gates-funded Moderna coronavirus vaccine, raising big questions about the supposed impartiality of the federal government's policies decisions during the coronavirus outbreak. NIAID Director Dr. Anthony Fauci, a financial ally of Bill Gates, whose institute is part of NIH, has been critical of hydroxychloroquine, and the FBI even raided a health spa serving intravenous vitamin C, which are competitors to a vaccine. Gee, can you imagine raiding a health spa because they're giving intravenous vitamin C? There's a lot of spas that do that. A lot. Actually, there's one about not even an hour from me. They do the Myers cocktail, which is it's a cocktail of vitamins and things, and it helps people with immune deficiency and things like that. And they also do vitamin C. So this is a very common thing. But I guess, they don't want people getting healthy. No, they want them to need this vaccine and need their drugs, right? So we do have some particular stake in the intellectual property for the Moderna vaccine, stated Francis Collin, the director of NIH, in a revelatory recent economic club panel discussion. One of the vaccines, the one that's furthest along, which started actually at the federal government in our own vaccine research center at NIH, then worked with a biotechnology company called Moderna to get it to where we are now with very impressive phase 1 results and getting ready to go into a large-scale trial as early as July. That one, of course, we do have some particular stake in the intellectual property. Others, though, come from companies who've invested their efforts into getting them to the point where they are right now to be ready for trial. Collins stated, newly published documents from Public Citizens have massive implications. Public Citizen states, the U.S. government may jointly own a potential coronavirus vaccine. The National Institute of Health has played a critical role in coronavirus research for years. Building off this work, federal scientists have helped design and test mRNA-1273, a vaccine candidate developed in partnership with Moderna. The federal government has filed multiple patents concerning mRNA-1273. In this report, we describe 2 patent applications that list federal scientists as co-inventors. If the government successfully pursued its patent filings, the resulting patents would likely confer significant rights. We also review recently disclosed contacts between NIH and Moderna. The agreement suggests that NIH has not transferred its rights, but instead maintains a joint stake. Yeah. Journalist Patrick Howley exposes the coronavirus contact tracing program in the first ever episode of National File TV. Dr. Anthony Fauci funded the coronavirus bat research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, believed to be the source of the outbreak. Then the political class tried to suppress treatment as Fauci's friend and associate Bill Gates prepared mass vaccinations, and the economy got battered, and the whole episode was written out, planned in advance. Yes, it was. So why did Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation fund research at MIT on how to implant people's vaccination history under their skin? Why did Fauci meet with Bill Gates' father, George Soros, and Bill Gates' father and George Soros and other globalist heavyweights all the way back in 2001? Why did the Stephen King created television series The Dead Zone predict the coronavirus outbreak and a chloroquine cure for it back in 2003? Why did Anthony Fauci's NIAID fund the coronavirus bat research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which President Trump and Secretary of State Pompeo and others have identified as the source of the worldwide outbreak? That's a good questions. I think, the public has a right to know the answers. And they wonder why we don't trust Fauci. Are you kidding me? He's been in this from the beginning. From the beginning. Wow, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation provided funding for this research into storing medical information within a person's skin using a vaccine. Yeah, and that should surprise no one. No one at all. And we've looked at that in the past as well. And this, again, Patrick Howley, wow, a high-level source just sent me this photo, says that it shows Dr. Fauci with George Soros and Bill Gates' father, among others. Sources say it's from 2001. Fauci identified as man third from left. Third from left. There he is, right there. That's definitely him. All right. And let's come down. And yeah, this is a very good, I should leave I think I'm going to leave the link for this, and I will leave it in the pinned comments. So check it out. If you want to know more information, it's a very good place to find it. All right, now let's go back and see what else we can get into. Yeah, this is predictable. Predictable. I was waiting for it. And here it is. Says fall could bring rare paralyzing illness in children, CDC warns. Better keep them home from school. Who didn't see this coming? Really? I mean, it was just waiting to happen. Because people are getting upset. They want their children back in school. And now we've got this paralyzing illness in children. New paralyzing illness in children. Yeah, outbreaks of this disease called acute flaccid myelitis, AFM, have occurred every 2 years since 2014, but they picked this year to scare us about it. I've never heard of it before. Maybe some of you with children have. I've never heard of it before. Now they're bringing it out there. And to me, the timing is suspect. They got to keep the schools closed. They got to keep, everything locked down tight. The other thing is, too, a lot of the voting is held at schools, right? Yeah. Well, I guess if the schools are closed, you can't have voting places there, can you? Anyway, I know. I'm very, very, skeptical. As if the COVID-19 pandemic weren't enough. It is enough. It's more than enough. Health officials say we're due for an outbreak of a rare polio-like illness in children this fall. Cases of the disease known as acute flaccid myelitis, AFM, spiked late in the summer and fall of 2014, 2016, and 2018. And yet, nobody heard about it. Did you hear about it? Did you hear? Anybody? You know, let me know in the comments below if you've heard of this. Now, I'm not talking to you medical professionals, because chances are pretty good that you have. But I'm talking to just normal people that have no medical knowledge or not much. Have you ever heard of it? Because I haven't. That doesn't mean that it wasn't out there, but I just hadn't heard of it. What I'm saying is they weren't scaring us with it, but bet you they will now. Anyway, officials expect the trend to continue for 2020, according to a statement from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. AFM is a condition that affects the nervous system and causes muscle weakness, particularly in the arms and legs, which can progress rapidly and lead to permanent paralysis, the CDC said. Recent data suggests that enteroviruses, especially a type called enterovirus D68, are likely the primary cause of AFM outbreaks in the U.S., according to a new CDC study released Tuesday, August 4th, in the journal Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. Polio is also caused by an enterovirus, but COVID-19 is a wild card that could affect AFM outbreaks. Oh, we'll need a vaccine for that too. Or maybe they'll just put it in with the COVID vaccine, you know, for good measure. Anyway, I don't like this flashing in my face. It's enough to give a person a seizure. Okay. All right, I'm just seeing if there's any more down here, and there is. We do not know how COVID-19 and social distancing may affect enterovirus. CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield said in a news conference it's possible that social distancing measures will decrease circulation of enteroviruses, in which case AFM cases may be fewer this year, or the outbreak may be delayed, Redfield said. On the flip side, the pandemic could make it harder for healthcare professionals to recognize and respond to AFM cases, Redfield said. Better keep your kids home. It's the only solution. Everybody stay locked up in their homes. CDC officials aren't taking any chances, and they're calling on doctors and parents to be on the lookout for AFM. The illness could be suspected in children with sudden limb weakness, especially during the peak months of August through November. Limb weakness linked to AFM is often preceded by respiratory illness or fever and the presence of neck or back pain. AFM is a medical emergency that requires immediate care, Redfield said. There's no specific treatment for AFM, but since symptoms can progress rapidly and require mechanical ventilation, gee, sounds a lot like COVID, patients suspected to have the disease should be hospitalized immediately, the report said. What's more, doctors may recommend physical or occupational therapy to help with limb weakness caused by AFM, and this therapy may lead to better outcomes if implemented in the initial phase of illness. So, yeah. Don't know what to think about that, but this is, fairly rare. Although cases of AFM have increased in recent years, the disease remains very rare. A total of 633 cases of AFM have been confirmed in the U.S. since officials started tracking the disease. Now, be on the lookout for them to blow this disease up. I'm not sure that they will. Maybe they won't. Maybe it's just a coincidence that they're bringing it out now. I doubt it, but maybe. So just be on the lookout for them to blow this up. And say, because of COVID, this is going to be worse, and blah, blah, blah. It's all about scaring us with everything before the election, right? Anything to get us to stay home and mail our ballots in. That's what they want. And so they're going to make it darn near impossible for you to vote. That's what I think anyway. That is my mind frame. That's how I'm looking at this. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. And you know what? I come back and tell you when I catch it, or somebody, says, look, that's not right. I try to come back and correct it. But that's how I'm thinking about this. Just the timing seems suspect. All right. Well, let's go back. Let's see what else we have. Okay, this is important. Very important. Not news you want to hear, but news that is important to see. Rioters storm Portland neighborhood. Every city, every town burned the precinct to the ground. Now, this is from today. In what was ultimately declared a riot by law enforcement, a group calling for the burning down of police precincts in every city marched through a Portland neighborhood last Tuesday night. The incident comes as Portland has been rocked by over 2 months of violent riots and saw an explosion in violent crime last month. In one of the numerous videos that was posted to social media on Tuesday night, rioters could be heard chanting, "Every city, every town, burn the precincts to the ground." And this is Antifa in Portland. Every city, every town, burn the precincts to the ground. That is what they're shouting. I don't think we need to hear that particularly. Coin News reporter Hannah Ray Lambert tweeted out numerous videos of the rioters, including when law enforcement officials advanced to clear them out of the area. And it says, pushing people to Lombard and Denver. Also, that may not have been tear gas because none of the officers I see are wearing gas masks. And this person replies, LRAD back, unlawful assembly declared, PBB warning that tear gas may be used, and it looks like some got fired mid-warning from the other direction. And they're saying that's not tear gas. And it says, a smoky but not spicy retreat. Some demonstrators are trying to reassemble the barricades now. Rioters also appear to attempt to set a building on fire. Well, what's new with that? By lighting cardboard on fire and setting it up against the building. Some people putting flaming cardboard up against the building, Lambert tweeted. Then the person in the flag cape started putting it out. Some people yelled that they were a cop. Dumpster on fire in the middle of the street. There you go. Some people put up flaming cardboard up against the building. Then the person in the flag cape started putting it out. Some people in the crowd on North Lombard Street and North Campbell Avenue are involved in criminal activity. It appears these people are trying to break into the Portland Police Association office. The Portland Police Department said in a statement, to those attempting to break into or damage the Portland Police Association building, stop now or you may be cited, arrested, or subject to use of force. If you are at this location to peacefully protest, know this is criminal behavior. Know this criminal behavior is occurring and leave the area now. Portland police initially declared the march an unlawful assembly and instructed people to disperse immediately before ultimately declaring the situation a riot. A riot has been declared at North Lombard Street and North Campbell Avenue, the department continued. You are ordered to disperse to the south immediately. Failure to comply with this order may subject you to citation or arrest and may subject you to use of crowd control agents and or impact weapons. U.S. Attorney Billy J. Williams, the chief federal law enforcement official in Oregon since 2015, slammed the media during a recent interview over many reporters' refusal to accurately report on what was happening. These aren't late-night demonstrations. This is criminal activity, Williams responded. There's a difference. When what you have failed and the media have failed to distinguish between, you seem unwilling to call people engaged in criminal conduct as criminals as opposed to lawful protesting. This is unlawful, William continued, and people, whether you're an opportunist, an antagonist, an agitator, or an anarchist, call it out for what it is. You're choosing terms that sort of downplay the criminal activity, and what I'm suggesting is that there is an honest accounting of what this is that helps build the reality check for how this can stop. Williams later added, that's my point. So, yeah, it has no, it doesn't show any signs of letting up. And I mean, that is awful. Every city, every town, burn the precinct to the ground. That's horrible. These are not nice people that are just peacefully protesting. I know, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you guys know that. But I wish that more people could understand that, because there's a lot of people that just don't. They don't get it at all. And probably because they're not seeing the images that we're seeing, because we're looking in alternative news sources and we're looking to citizen journalists, and they are the ones that are actually showing what's happening. Whereas mainstream media is just painting it over and whitewashing it. I mean, that's probably not the best term to use, but you know what I mean. All right. Let's look at what other trouble we can get in. And I think, let me see how long I've been going here. Oh, we can cover a few more things here. Sure we can, and we will. All right, and James Wood, I love James Wood. I mean, he's very, very intelligent man, and I just love the things he comments on. He says, I must admit, I hadn't thought of this. Finally, it all makes sense. Now, it says, they want churches and schools closed because that's where voting happens. And yeah, I hadn't really thought about that until reading this myself. But it makes sense, doesn't it? It really does. Anything to make voting by mail necessary, because that's the only way that they can steal the election. Well, one of the only ways. And they intend on doing that. And the other thing that I'm hearing ramp up that makes me very, very nervous is the Democrats are saying it doesn't matter what the results of the election are, that if Trump wins, I mean, if he doesn't win, everything will be all fine. But if he does win, they're planning on just declaring that he lost and just taking control. So really, and there's just, it's really ramping up. They're talking about a lot of violence happening and whatever. Yeah, I would stay in somewhere safe on the night of the election and the night afterwards, or the day after, really. I don't know what's going to happen, but if you're in any of the hotspot cities, I'd be a little concerned. I'm not telling you that you need to worry or anything else, but just make sure that you are safe and that you have personal protection in the, not condoms, not that kind of personal protection. I'm talking, something that could save you and your family if you were threatened. All right. Pukita for U.S. Senate, Pukita for U.S. Senate 22, Republican, Ohio, deboosted, banned. This is brilliant. It's the 404. Oh, that's his name. Okay, I gotcha. I'm thinking, what? Deboosted, banned. Okay. And he says, this is brilliant. It's the 404 page on Real Donald Trump's website. You gotta love this man. Okay, you can not like him. You can really, but you gotta respect him, and you've gotta find him at least humorous. And I do. I happen to think he's a very, very smart man. Okay, it's the 404 page on Real Donald Trump's website. So it's funny because a 404 page, of course, is if you are looking for something that's not there, or you put in something in the search, it's not there, like an error page will come up, and you're looking for something that used to be there but isn't, 404 page will come up. And this is Donald Trump's website's 404 page. It says, it appears you are as lost as me. And it has Joe Biden looking kind of, like, oh, do. Like that. He's kind of that way, like, oh, do. Like he does. He just strikes me that way. Anyway, that is hysterical. I don't care who you are. It's funny. Okay. My gosh, I haven't gotten through everything. Why? Okay, let's see what else. I'm going to save some of this stuff for tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to two things I'm going to cover before I leave. I mean, you can stay, but it'll just be blackness here. Like, I'll be gone. I'll be like, with two little furry cats at the foot of my bed. Absolutely. They are absolutely so adorable because I wake up in the middle of the night and I make sure that they're there, and they usually are. And then if I say something to them, they'll crawl up closer to me. I don't know why I'm getting into that. You didn't ask me about that. You probably don't even care. But sometimes I just like to talk about my cats. You know, there's so little pleasure in life anymore. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. I can't leave Canada to go into the States to visit my friends and people. And I can't even travel between provinces here because you've got to quarantine for 2 weeks when you get to the next province, and then you have to quarantine 2 weeks when you come back. And I'm like, okay, like I'm stuck here. There's no church, there's no anything. I'm bored. My cats bring me pleasure, and hence I talk about them. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, Australia enters new confusing lockdown 2. Now, and I'm covering this too because we have a lot of listeners from Australia, believe it or not, and you hear from them in the comments a lot of times. So yeah, they're all pretty cool people. Australia enters new confusing lockdown 2. Australia's second largest city, Melbourne, grappling with a spiraling coronavirus outbreak in a country that once thought it had the pandemic beat, has now imposed some of the toughest restrictions in the world. But as officials cast about for ways to break the chain of infections, the city has become a confounding matrix of hefty fines for disobedience, minor exceptions for everything from romantic partners to home building, and endless versions of the question, so wait, can I? Yeah. And I can relate to this because I feel like that here. It's just, and things just don't make sense because, you know, okay, for example, here, I don't know what it's like there, but here, they have opened up restaurants, but they can only open, I think, to 25% capacity or something like that. Anyway, a lot of places, the restaurants have opened patios, but it's been so stinking hot this summer, it's sweltering, you know, that most people are finding the patios a bit much because it's been over 100. Today, it was actually only 80, and I felt like I needed a sweater. I went out and I went, ooh, it's chilly out here. I was expecting it to be hot. But anyway, so what I'm saying is the mask, you have to put the mask in when you're entering the restaurant, and then you wear it and you sit down and you order and everything. But then when your food comes, you can take the mask off. And of course, you can't eat with a mask on, but what's the point in wearing the mask from the door to the table and then taking it off? I'm just putting that out there because it seems really strange to me. All right, I don't know. I guess the chattiness has come over me suddenly. Australia's second largest city, Melbourne, grappling with spiraling. Okay, we read that part. Restaurant owners are wondering about food delivery after 8 p.m. curfew began on Sunday night. Teenagers are asking if their boyfriends and girlfriends count as essential partners. Can animal shelter volunteers walk dogs at night? Are house cleaners essential for those struggling with their mental health? Can the COVID-tested exercise outside? This is such a weird, scary, bizarro time that we live in, said Testia Von Tessel Roberts, 25, a student in Melbourne who admits to having hit a breaking point a few days ago when her washing machine broke. Our healthcare workers are hustling around the clock to keep us alive, she said. Our politicians are scared, as we are, but they have to pretend like they have a better idea than we do of what's going to happen next. Pandemic lockdowns, never easy, are getting more confusing and contentious as they evolve in the face of second and third round of outbreaks that have exhausted both officials and residents. With success against the virus as fleeting as the breeze, the new waves of restriction feel to many like a bombing raid that just won't end. For some places, risk calculation can change overnight. In Hong Kong, officials banned daytime dining in restaurants last month, only to reverse themselves a day later after an outcry. Schools in some cities are opening and closing like screen doors in summer, but in many areas where the virus has retreated and then resurged, the future looks like a long, complicated haul. Leaders are reaching for their own metaphors to try to explain it. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom has compared his opening and shutting of business to a dimmer switch. Dan Andrews, the premier in Victoria, where Melbourne is the capital, has repeatedly referred to pilot light mode for industries like construction and meatpacking, which have been ordered to temporarily reduce their workforces. Whatever the metaphor, it's dark. Melbourne, a city of 5 million that is considered a capital of food and culture, is becoming a prime example. It and the rest of Australia was once a shining victor, believing the virus to have been licked as late as June. As of late June, then Melbourne's hotel quarantine program broke down, with returning travelers passing the virus to security guards who carried the contagion into their neighborhoods. The spread continued even after Melbourne started a so-called Stage 3 lockdown in early July, until recently the highest level of restrictions, with no large gatherings and most people working from home. Officials grew increasingly angry as they discovered that the perception of a problem solved has produced complacency. Traffic data shows people in Melbourne driving more in July than they had during the first Stage 3 lockdown in March and April. Even worse, almost 9 out of 10 people with COVID-19 had not been tested or isolated when they first felt sick. Mr. Andrew, the state's top leader, said in late July, and 53% had not quarantined while waiting for their test results. That means people have felt unwell and just gone about their business, Mr. Andrews said. He made face masks mandatory the next day on July 22nd. Still, infections have continued to rise. They peaked at 753 new cases on July 30th and have hovered around 500 a day ever since, with the death toll in Victoria now standing at 147 after 11 deaths were recorded on Monday. Those figures have paved the way for a Stage 4 lockdown, what officials are calling a shock and awe attack on the virus that will last at least 6 weeks. People are losing it. They really are losing it. Overwhelming force with precision seems to be the goal. The chief modelers of the pandemic response in Australia have found that the virus can be suppressed only if more than 70% of the population abides by social distancing guidelines and other public health rules. Mr. Andrews said the new restriction would take 250,000 more people out of their routines in the hope of reaching the necessary threshold. So retail stores will be closed. Schools will return to at-home instruction. Restaurants will be takeaway or delivery only. Child care centers will be available only for permitted workers. Those are the restrictions that are already well understood. The rules requiring more explanation are tied to the curfew and industries that have to cut back. So, and I'm not going to go on and on with this because I think we're all aware of what's happening. And, you know, it wouldn't be so bad if it made sense, but people are seeing, like, for example, here, the stores are open now, but they're open on limited hours. So the mall closes at 5 p.m. Well, people that work till 5 p.m. And even on weekends, closes at 5. Same thing with banks. Now, the banks never stay open past 4. And they open at 10 to 4 to do your banking. And only, if there's one teller in there, then there can only be one person in the bank at a time. If there's 2, there can be 2, and 3, whatever. So you have to wait outside in a very, very long line, sometimes for an hour or more, just to do your banking. Now, if it's safe to open and everyone is wearing masks and social distancing, why can't the bank be open for its regular hours? Why? It doesn't make sense. Is the virus only active from 10 to 4 or not active between 10 to 4? And if they open till 5 in that hour, everybody's going to get the virus? I don't get it. Same thing with restaurants. They have reduced hours. Those that are open, most are not, But and even the stores that people need to get to, shoe stores, things like that, they have very reduced hours. And I don't get that, because if it's safe to open, it's safe to open. I mean, you have to have a mask before you're allowed in. You have to social distance. They make you take a cart to space yourself. You have to let them squirt hand sanitizer all over you. Not all over you, just on your hands, but still. And so, I mean, if those measures are in place already and you can only allow a certain amount of people in the store because, of social distancing, well, then you shorten the hours, which makes it's unbearable to do. I mean, I used to zip, and I could do all my errands and stuff, go to the bank, go to the mail, whatever. And I could just be zip, and done. Well, not now, because even the mail, it's got way reduced hours. And again, only one person is allowed in the post office. One person. So you can imagine what those lineups are like. Now, why can't the post office be open longer hours to be able to deal with the fact that there's only one person at a time and there's still the same amount of people to service? People don't just stop going to the post office because there's a pandemic. People don't just stop going to the bank and say, oh, well, you know what? I don't need to go to the bank. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have things that you need the teller for. Now, I try to do everything that I possibly can with an ATM or online. But, today I needed to go to the bank. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I mean, line up like you would not believe. And I'm seeing the hours 10 to 4. And I'm thinking, how do people that are working 9 to 5, how are they doing this? Because you can't get it done on a lunch hour. What are they? They must have to take a day off work just to get a few errands done. And grocery stores, same thing, big lineup, limited amount of people in, limited hours. That doesn't make sense. And I think more than anything, that is what gets to people, because it doesn't make sense. It's like the rules change every day. So you never really know what to expect. You're always kind of off center, off balance, because you never know what to expect. Basically here it was, you don't need masks and you can go shop. And then it was like the next week, no, everybody has to put masks on. So I think that more than anything, it is the uncertainty and the knowing that it's out of our control. And it is out of our control. There's these people somewhere making all these decisions about our well-being, and doesn't seem to be keeping us well at all. There's people more depressed, socially withdrawn. I have become depressed, irritable. I want to be out with my friends. I want to be out and I want to be able to meet with some girlfriends and have a coffee and talk or whatever. Meet for a Bible study, whatever. But, it seems more difficult in this time because everybody is like all withdrawn to themselves. So I'm just saying that to say that I think more than the fact that there's a quarantine or whatever, and there still is, no matter what they say, in some ways there are in many places. So I think if it made sense, it would somehow be a little bit better, but none of it makes sense at all. Like, what's with all these reduced hours? I don't get it. So I do think people are losing it. And I think if the government here said, okay, we're going to lock down tight for another 6 weeks, I think I would cry. Like, literally, I think I would lose it. Because when you live alone, and I know many of you do, many of you live alone, and now it helps to have pets. Absolutely, it helps, but it's not the same as being able to sit down with a human being. And when you're live by yourself and you don't have anyone to talk to anyway, unless you pick up the phone, then it especially is very demoralizing and very It's demoralizing, it's dehumanizing, and it's depressing. So I think you all can, know where I'm coming from and what I'm getting at. We're all in this. We're all facing the same things. Now, some of us have a little bit more freedom, depending on what state you're in and what country you're in and so forth, but we're all battling the same thing. Anyway, all right. Well, I think I'm going to end it there. It's 11:05 if you're on medication, and if you're not, it's still 11:05 p.m. Eastern Time, that is. So I will be back, not tonight, but tomorrow. I'll be back. Same bat time and same bat channel. So you guys have a wonderful evening. Please stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth. Also, check out, it's in the video description. If you're interested in any, there's t-shirts, there's masks. I know people got upset with me for doing masks because they said, that's hypocritical. Well, it's not, because if I don't wear a mask, I can't get groceries. And some of you are in that same boat. So if you have to wear a mask, why not wear, one that you like? So anyway, you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will see you in the next video. Good night, guys.